question I get asked the most is, what do we do to attract top-notch millennials, motivate them because they're not like the rest of us, and how do we keep them from leaving? That's a hard one. The question I get asked second most often is, what's the most unexpected thing you've come across in 25 years of researching generations? That one's easy. Half of what you have heard about millennials is wrong. Half of the frustrations businesses have about the younger millennial employees is wrong. Half of the frustrations millennials have about communicating with the older generations about what they need or what's different today is wrong. Half the frustrations that families have with their 20-somethings, they're wrong. Not wrong because they're statistically inaccurate, although a lot of what we read or hear about the millennials, I don't know where it comes from. It has nothing to do with social science. But even the stuff that social science correct, that's survey-based, half of it's still wrong. Gallup, for example, I mean, you can trust Gallup's research. They're doing a conference in a month about the millennials, and they are suggesting they are the least engaged generation in the workplace. While that's accurate, it's also wrong because it's not the millennials that are least engaged. It's a new life stage called emerging adulthood, and that's what's unexpected. This one, my friends, is a game changer. Because if it's the millennials, they're a problem that need to be fixed. If it's a life stage, it's a change that we need to understand and adapt to. And understanding that makes working together easier, and it makes being a father easier. Now, emerging adulthood is characterized by three things: freedom, choice, and change. It actually takes place between 18 and 27 or 28, and sociologists have only been talking about it the last 10 years. Now, it shouldn't be so unexpected, because if people are living 20 to 30 years longer around the world, then there should be more life stages in there somewhere. And so we should have seen it coming, but only about 2% of the people I talk to ever have heard about it. How do we know it's there? Because when you ask people on surveys who are over 30, when does adulthood begin? Full adulthood, they say 28, 27. When you ask people under 30, when does full adulthood begin? 27, 28. It's the one thing we all agree on. We all see it. We just didn't have a name for it. Parents say this: when I was 25, I had a mortgage and a kid. You need to settle down, quit turning your nose up at the wonderful people I find you, and bring me some grandchildren. What is wrong with you? Right? Bosses are, how do we motivate them? They're not engaged. Yes, because this is not going to be their career for the rest of their lives. How do we keep them from leaving? Simple. The research is absolutely clear. A mortgage and babies. That's when the boomers settled down. They just had a mortgage and babies earlier as the first generation to experience emerging adulthood. And so rather than explain emerging adulthood in business terms, let me show you the most unexpected benefit of the most unexpected thing I've learned. It made me a better dad to my 3 sons. Now, I have a daughter, but she doesn't face freedom, change, and choice because she's only a sophomore in university, and she's going into medicine, which means her next 8 years are pre-planned for her. So this doesn't apply to her, but my 3 business major boys, it applies to completely. And they illustrate the 3 characteristics or dimensions of emerging adulthood: freedom, choice, and change. My son Bart, he's 26. When he was 22, he graduated with 2 degrees, got married 3 months later, and headed off to a very risky startup. Now, all startups are risky. This was twice as risky as the average startup. His mother said, "No, you have $500 to your name and a new bride." He said, "My new bride can work. She can get into any grad school with her grades. We're fine, and we both want to live in Rhode Island." So they moved to Rhode Island, which has great lobster rolls. I have to tell you, after living in Chicago, amazing lobster rolls, go Iggy's. And so they live out there. They're quite happy. They're dirt poor. They have hand-me-down furniture in the back of a U-Haul, and he just resigned last Wednesday. He ran out of money. He's not sweating it. He's 26. He has a wife, no money. I would be panicked as a baby boomer in the same situation, but millennials have an intensification of freedom that the older generations, when they experience emerging adulthood, didn't have. He said to us, why would I not do it now? I don't have the entanglements of later life, early adulthood. I don't need the money. We can put it on the credit card and you'll let us move back in with you, won't you? Yes, 1 out of every 3 millennials lives with their parents sometime in their 20s, and that allows significantly more freedom. In 1962, Alfred Hitchcock made a movie about boys that live at home too long. What was the name of that movie? Psycho. That's what previous generations thought about boys that lived at home. There is significantly more freedom today than there was back then. The second characteristic grows out of freedom, and that's choice. My son Josh is mellow. He gets a business degree. He has a minor in theology and church administration. He's going to get a business job last year when he graduates. His mother says, go do this residency. It's very selective. Try it. He gets in. He is a resident in a huge church in Phoenix. He finishes in 3 weeks with a master's in Christian education, and he's changed his mind, and he's now going to be a children's minister. Switches from business to his minor completely because he has choices, and his mother's pushing him toward choices. More than that, he has bad dyslexia. 15 years ago, he would have had no choices except laborer. Now, don't get me started. I think laborers are amazingly valuable and honorable work, okay? Mike Rowe and the whole campaign to give honor to people who are laborers in dirty jobs. You graduate with a business degree, you make $45,000 as a salesman. You graduate from an apprenticeship and are able to read a blueprint and you're a welder, you start at $75,000. We need to get off of this not honoring laborer stuff, right? All I'm saying is Josh now has choices because of assistive technology. He was on the dean's list all his years in school, was a TA the last 2 years. He has choices because of technology that previous generations never would have had. The last characteristic of emerging adulthood is change. Change roommates, change people they date, change careers, change places they live. Oh, I found somebody in Seattle on Match.com. We've been visiting each other. I think this is going to work. My wife and I were apart from each other when we were engaged for 6 months because a plane flight was $200 and long distance was $2 a minute. We didn't FaceTime. We wrote each other letters for 6 months while we were engaged. They're FaceTiming. I think this is my soulmate. I'm going to go make this work. The boss is going, you're my best millennial. You can't leave. I was going to put you in the succession plan. Dude, come back. You can blame it all on me. My son Max gets 3 job offers. He has flown to Vegas and wined and dined. I did not have these choices or these opportunities when I was graduating. And he started in a business degree, switched to IT, switched back to business, and got hired in video and photography because he made a website in his spare time. Friends, we're talking about change here. Here's what my best friend said to him, a COO of a company. Max is freaking out because he has 3 great opportunities. Max, you're not going to be there forever. It's your first job. Chill, dude. I don't know why the millennials aren't loyal. It's a new life stage. I don't know why they're not engaged. Because they're not 28 with a mortgage and a baby. We all just need to slow it down a bit. Because if we think it's a generational characteristic, we think we need to fix them. If we think it's a life stage, all we have to do is to understand it and shut up and listen.
Why is generations a topic in a large organization that has had a long history? Because you're not going anywhere, because people still need power. Does this make sense? So you may be in a next era, but there's still some Florida power and light in there, isn't it? There's still people down around here that need some power even after the wind blows hard today. And that may be me. I'm supposed to go work in the Bronx tomorrow, but if that wind keeps going, I may need power in the airport all night long. Does this make sense? Yeah, and I know you had a drought, but enough's enough. When you're done watering the plants, you turn off the spigot, do you not? That's what I was hearing on the way in today, is this was great. We needed some rain. And boy, we probably asked a little too hard for this. And so that makes sense. Now let's talk some of the key themes that we talked about earlier when we had a little bit more time for that. So let me distill what I think are some of the biggest deals around generations. First, what do we do with these millennials? What do we do with them? Because they're not like us. Remember, Sesame Street, one of these things is not like the others. Pick one of the 4 generational boxes that thinks differently. Now, Xers, you were different. Fortune magazine had a cover of you in a tie-dyed shirt, and you wanted to bring your dog to work. And when a big company came to the business school for recruiting, your school bribed you to go because you wanted to be entrepreneurs and work for the startup company. And then you came to work, and there were so many of them and so few of you that you made major changes in the dress code. You got it to Dockers. Right? Guys got it to Dockers. You could get away from dress pants and you could get into the dungarees. You couldn't do jeans. Could do jeans, but Xer women, you were able to get it to the peep toes. Anybody remember back in the early 80s when men wore suits and women wore bigger suits? It was about the kind of shoulders. You basically look like a vampire. The guy in front of me was watching a Chinese vampire movie, and you look like a vampire in those kind of shoulder pad things, right? The bigger the shoulder pads, the bigger the status. I think women were going for height, 1 inch of padding at a time. Either that or they were really hoping to get a front line position on some football team. And so we will just outguy the guys. And women brought us the shoulder padless jacket and the peep toe. Now, I had the head of HR in the Hilton Biltmore in Arizona say to me, we have moved we want the peep toe at the Hilton. They require pumps. I said, what is a peep toe? I had to go home and ask my wife, what is a peep toe? So I don't have unconscious bias. I'm just unconscious about what a peep toe is. Does that make sense? What is a peep toe? It's a pump where the big toe. Suddenly things make sense. When my wife and daughter have only 1 toe painted, they were in a hurry, but it's summer, so they planned on the peep toe. You don't have to burn a lot of time. She said, here's our goal. Our goal is to get 1 toe at a time. There's so many of them and so few of us, and our goal at the Hilton as Xers is to get 1 toe and then go from there. Start with 1 and then work our way into sandals. Xers, when you came in, you were different, and yet you needed to eat. And you preferred it indoors. And then you had children. And so they owned you. So I'm in Costa Rica in the largest bank. The executive team said, what do we do to keep younger generations from leaving? And I was probably too succinct in my answer. Thinking about banking and mortgage and the research on turnover, I simply said, you need to get them pregnant. To which the director of HR in the back of the room threw up her hands. I said, oh, my bad. I didn't mean you personally. I mean that the research shows that when people have a mortgage and some kiddos, they don't go anywhere. How many of you have toddlers? How many of you have tried to go somewhere, by the time you take to quote the really bad Batman, right? The one with Jack Nicholson, right? The toys. Oh, the toys. The toys my 2-month-old grandbaby has today. The detachable stroller. It's a beautiful thing. You just pop that kid out. That kid never leaves her car seat. They just put her into her bed system. It's great. She never leaves her car seat. It is a beautiful thing, right? And a stroller that costs more than my first car because it's made out of materials. I was at NASA and said, there are materials here you can't afford to do on a space shuttle. Yes, astronaut lives matter, but we can't afford that. But we've got in a jogging stroller with a cup holder. Because this is a beautiful thing. Does this make sense? The toys are amazing, but by the time you carry all that stuff out to the car, there's 17 trips. It is easier to just stay home, is it not? And you promise yourself, we're still going to do stuff when we have kids. And the first one you do, because you tag team hauling the stuff out of the car. By the second kid, you're like, I'm sitting right here, and I'm not leaving until I have to go to work again. And then someone says, hey, do you want to move for a job? No. How many of you have junior hires, middle schoolers? How many of you want to be hated until you pay for a lot of therapy? In later years. That's what happens if you move in junior high. I'm in love. We have been hanging out together for 3 weeks. This is I gave him the best 3 weeks of my life, and you're making me move. If you would have just waited another half a week, they would have been broken up. But because you moved before that 3.5 weeks came up, you will be hated until 30s. I want to go to therapy and talk to you about how you broke my heart in junior high because of your stupid career. Now, the irony is, when we get older, we don't move much. Baby boomers had 9 jobs before they were 32. And then after that, they don't have as many jobs because they gotta move. I'm gonna, whatever. And then you get to be a manager and you have less incentive to move, right? I don't know why these people aren't loyal. Because you're the boss guy going, no, I did this, right? Like the video, I did this. And they're going, yeah, but that was my idea that you didn't hear. Just like the video that our showed us. That was my idea. Yeah, whatever. Well, no wonder you stay. You're a water walker. When you go like this, they're like, I'm writing that down. I'm telling that to my kids. My boss went, you got incentives to stay. More than that, many of us, when we move into management, are older, and so we got kiddos, or especially bigger kiddos, who tell us they hate us and then go to their room and cry, and so we're less likely to move. We're at a stage in life where we say, whatever, is exactly right. Yeah, whatever. Heck, got this great opportunity. Here's what my wife said. I had a client that said, wouldn't you like to come off the road? No, not really. I like what I do. Yeah, but we can offer you, we'll even give you stock options if you want this job. I said, no, we just built a house. He said, ask your wife. First of all, that is so Xer. Boomers would never have said, ask your wife. To boomers, they would have said, well, okay, we're only going to ask 3 times. And then you will never get asked again. And the third one might be Boise. So you better take this one down. For Xers, it's, well, why don't you call home? The assumption is that you would have to call home. Boomers would have been assumed that you would take the job and then call home and explain where you're moving. Right? The fact that he even said to me, talk to your wife. I talked to her. I said, hey, I got to get back to Tim. I told him, no way. She said, well, baby, if you want to live up there all week long and then just drive home on weekends, we could do that. If that really, whatever you want to do, if you want to get off the road. Different world. We're not going anywhere. How about this? I'm at a big aerospace place, and they said to me, the VP said to me, we are amazed at how much a brand new minted engineering grad, because of internships, because of some of the technology they get to use now, how quickly they move into projects and actually add value. They actually hit the ground running faster than we did. I said, well, how come then they have to sit at the card table at Thanksgiving for about 7 years to pay their dues until they're invited up to the big table, of which they're told by people who do give them coaching, you need to shut up unless spoken to, and after that, you just need to say yes. You can tell me all the things you think need to change here, but you have to sit here at the big table quietly for about 3 years before you can actually answer a question that is directed to you. Now what? You're saying that if a question is directed to me, I should not answer it. That's right. They're just testing you to see if you know your place at the big table, to see if you have the right definition of respect. Am I missing anything? No, and it's not. It's because that's what happened to us, isn't it? We're not bad people. We are just doing unto others what happened to us. So yesterday I'm on the phone with the hospital. They said, here's our challenge. Our older nurses resent our younger nurses. I said, that's because your younger nurses don't want to work every holiday. They said, that's right. And your older nurses say, I had to work every holiday. If I had to work every holiday. And they always do it with this twitchy face, don't they? If I had to do it. Suddenly we get palsy when we are talking about the things we didn't like in our past. I had to do it, so you're going to have to do it. Well, then I'll quit. That's because you don't care about patients. Well, if you cared about patients, why don't you work Thanksgiving? I already had to work Thanksgiving when I was 20. People in their 20s work Thanksgiving. Why? Did I not mention that's what I had to do? And if I had to do it and you don't have to do it, then the universe is not fair and I'm going to die bitter. That's in essence what we're saying. Turn to the person next to you. Turn to the person next to you. Look them in the eye and give them this business coaching. You ready? Look them in the eye. Unclench. Some of us clench our teeth. Our dentist is always on us for that. Some of us clench elsewhere. Wherever you clench, to quote the Disney film Frozen, let it go. Now here's the irony. When it comes to our own children, we're like, all right, now here's what you got to do, because they're going to want you to sit at the card table. And here's the end run on the card table. And then when they tell us what happens in their job, we're like, So we live in these two worlds with our slow brain and our fast brain. And when it comes to our kids, our fast brain goes, you're doing that stuff to my kid that you did to me, I will cut you. And then when we come to work, we're like, who do you think you are? You sit back down at that card table until we tell you to come up. Isn't this funny? No, not so much. Not so much. It isn't. Friday night, I filmed a series of videos on how do you cut your generational turnover in half quickly. And you can't cut all turnover quickly, but you can cut generational turnover in half if we just raise our generational IQ. Raise our generational IQ. If we have a process that's repeatable. Nobody wants to hire consultants every time they run into a generational challenge. We need a process that will help people about 80% of the time figure it out. And then every so often you need to customize a plan to the needs of your organization. Those simple three things. So they say easy, don't they? Take this, for example, talk about say easy. Just 3 weeks ago, this big report came out. Millennials aren't any different than any other generation. They want regular promotions and regular raises. And then they won't leave their organization. They plan to stay just like any other generation. Did you know that shorter people fit into small compact cars better than bigger people? Did you know that? They may have to talk more authoritatively in a presentation, as we learned in the last session, but they can roll right up into a compact Subaru, no problem. And last night, I was just happy to get a car when we landed in Tampa rather than Fort Lauderdale. And so I said, what else you got? Give me what is undesirable, because there's a lot of people in line who don't travel all the time and they'll be picky. He said, well, we have a subcompact. And he looked at me and said, you can't fit. Which made sense. And I felt very biased. And I thanked him for his accuracy. Does that make sense? See, so much of what we talk about in the research may be true, but it's not that helpful. If you're a manager, I have to give them constant raises and constant promotions. Well, talk about career advice. Hey, boss, how do I get ahead? This one woman in Pittsburgh, she was head of HR. She said, every time our new millennials ask for their career path, I change the topic, or fake an aneurysm. This is a direct quote. She said, I don't know what to tell them. And when I do talk about the fact that I don't have any answers, they leave within 6 months. Well, first of all, that's not true that they do. And secondly, because that's one of our fears, that doesn't usually work out that way. And here's what she said: if I knew what to do, I'd have a raise and a promotion. When organizations used to have a very clear career ladder, you could say, do these 4 things, and then you will move from level 3 to level 4 of Super Mario. But now organizations are more like that video game Myst, where you spend 3 years on this part of the island, and you come over and spend 4 years on this part of the island, and then some days you end up on that part of the island, you're not sure how you got there. And then eventually people say, you know who'd be great? I know them too. And there's no longer the same simple ladder, and so a lot of managers are like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to go forward here. And so, for those of you who like a little structure, let's turn some slides, okay? In an organization that hires a lot of people with some science in their degree, anybody here analytical by nature? Kind of lean that way? And you're like, this is fun, but wow, I can't believe our leaders invited him back if he just tells stories. He's not turned a single slide. Anybody thinking that? I have a bias against people who have slides and don't actually turn them, because I keep waiting for the presentation to start. You had no idea I've covered half of what I wanted to cover.